Let me give you a little update just as far as we know right now. Merle's funeral is probably going to be put off for like a couple months. I had a feeling it would be. You know, the winter, it's tough. And anyway, so at least a couple months out, just so you know. So, you know, Merle, you might remember this, but when we get it going, you'll hear it, you'll get it. When I was preaching on the Mighty Men, David's Mighty Men, Merle wrote a song for me on it. And she found it today. She goes, it's got Jerry written. I go, and I know which one it is, about mighty men. You'll get to hear it. So tonight, we're continuing on. This is a section in Peter that really gives you do's and don'ts and how to live, how to behave, how to act as a Christian. Remember, the key to all this is Christ living in you, the Holy Spirit dwelling within you. And as God dwells in you, you're able to do the right thing. So sometimes we just go through rights and wrongs, but we know without God, there's no way you can do it. But when you do, so 1 Peter 2, verse 11, as we start off, Beloved, I beg you, as sojourners and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts.
James what?
1 Peter.
Oh, Peter.
2:11. Yeah, 2:11. What are you doing in the back? Knock off the party zone. Renee. You're going on the tape. I can hear it.
1 Peter?
Yes, chapter 2, verse 11.
Thank you.
Beloved, I beg you as sojourners and pilgrims. Now, a sojourner is someone that's traveling on a spiritual journey. And he's saying to us that we are sojourners and pilgrims in this life. Now, think of it. This is a great time to do this for me because I look at my life now. If you look back, you realize you've been on a journey. If you're young, you realize you're on a journey, but you're looking at the journey ahead, where when you're older, you look at the journey behind, where you've already come from. And you notice he says, sojourners and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul. If you haven't noticed it, we're at war with the things of the flesh. And no matter how long you're saved or how long you've been following God, you still find yourself in a war and in a battle. Just like today, I'm sure you heard the news. Our news is so interesting now that these times we're in. But we finally attacked back the Houthis in Yemen. The U.S., Great Britain, Australia, and a few others. I mean, we're talking 10 to 20 Tomahawk missiles. I mean, pretty much probably wiped out whatever they had to, you know, they've been attacking these ships. And, you know, these ships are huge. And they're shooting these little missiles that are, they're not effective, but they could, you know, hurt somebody. And they've fired, what, 125 times at us? So finally today, the coalition, if you will, the U.S. and Great Britain, fired back. And so it's, you know, now they're all worried. I go, you know what gets me? Can anybody just go to the Hamas and say, just surrender? Just surrender. We'll call it even. We'll help you rebuild. But why should... And even today, no, did you see today? The country of South Africa filed a complaint with the UN, the World Court in The Hague, about Israel. They're saying that Israel is the aggressor and they violated international law. And even the people in South Africa, they're all judged. Look, it's a joke, but it is our country. It's like, you know, the World Court. It's kind of like when they, other than the U.S., when they were doing Nazi war crimes. That's where The Hague started. So it's a world court. They really don't have any authority, but it looks bad. And so you have all these South African judges saying Israel is guilty of war crimes. But even the other countries are like, get real. And they go, did you see October 7th? Did you see what happened? That's war crimes. So the most of the world is telling those people you are. But it makes you wonder, South Africa, anyway, I don't want to get stuck in all that, but we're in a mess. But the point is, with the Spirit of God, we can win the victory. We can have spiritual victory over all these things that are coming against us, and we all are facing a sojourn and a pilgrimage. They used to call, when people went to Israel, they call it a pilgrimage. Like now when Muslims go to Mecca, they call it a pilgrimage. So the Bible's just saying it's a sojourn, it's a journey describing your life. And how many times if you're older, and I realize older can be a subjective thing, but the older you are, you look back further and you think, man, I have been on a journey. I have been going through things. I have made some choices good. I made some choices that were bad. Well, isn't it neat that Peter is saying, you're on a journey. You're on a journey, and the journey is, this world is not our home. We're just passing through, but we try and do the best we can to serve God and do the things he says on this journey. And that's where he's saying, pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts, which wage war against the soul. Having your conduct honorable among the Gentiles, that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may by your good works, which they observe, glorify God in the day of visitation. Okay, here's an example. So the South Africans are sitting on their high and mighty little bench trying to condemn Israel for war crimes, but the people in the Middle East, even Arab countries, are saying, you guys are whacked. Did you watch October 7th? What happened? Babies were killed. Babies were thrown into ovens. I mean, a horrendous crime against humanity was done by Hamas. And now you're defending Hamas. And by the way, for the first time, it hasn't been agreed upon yet, but the UN actually came out and condemned Hamas for October 7th. That's the first. No, they did it. They're voting on it. It will never go through. But at least it was brought up, and the UN was saying, look, this is horrible. So it is. So what we're seeing is the journey. If you look at the journey of Israel to become a nation, 1948, they became a nation. The League of Nations let them. And look at the journey they've been on. I mean, they are attacked constantly, nearly every day, from somewhere. And now, you know, the big thing now is Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon. And those of you who went to Israel, if you remember where we went to, where the gates of Abraham were, that's on the backside. And on the front side, there's an altar, a Canaanite altar, where the Canaanites threw babies and killed babies. From that altar, you look into Lebanon. You look into Lebanon. And if you notice, if you ever wander away from your group leader, there'll be signs that say, minefield, don't go. And that's between you and Lebanon. So you don't decide to go on a hike over there. But Lebanon, now, you know, and now they're saying it's going to expand and all this. Look, we're on a journey. We're on a spiritual journey. And the forces of evil are going against the forces of good. We see it all the time. And so this is Peter's way of saying, look, you're on a journey, but recognize that you could still go back to your old self. And how many of us, we all know that. We can be doing well, but something can happen and we can fly off. We just can't. So this is what he's getting at. Having your conduct honorable among the Gentiles, that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may, by your good works, which they observe, glorify God in the day of visitation. Like, that's what I'm saying, is people can see what's happening in the Middle East and other places in the world. The Sudan is a full-on war zone right now. All the chaplains that I was involved with, they're all deployed all over the country now. And it's listed by the UN as one of the top 5 most dangerous spots on earth. Probably the Middle East, probably 1, but Africa is in the top 5. So, you know, people watch them, they watch their conduct, and like when they're allowed to be chaplains in the South Sudanese army, they love them. They love having them with their detachments because they're out preaching the gospel to people. I mean, they're fighting in combat, but when they get a chance, they share Christ with the people. So that's what it means by people are seeing what they're like and what their conduct is really like. Therefore, submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether to the king as supreme or to governors as to those who are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of those who do good. So we submit ourselves to the ordinances unless it's an ordinance that goes against God. If it's an ordinance like speeding, paying your taxes, you know, things that you can do, and if you're a Christian, you still do those things. If it's telling you to go against the things of God, then we don't do it. But things like normal right and wrong, we're supposed to do that as an example to our faith. And Christians should be great examples. They should be great neighbors. They should be great workers. They should. People know if you're a Christian. And so if you're in sports, if you're in work, you're working with people, they see how you are. And that's what he's talking about here. They can see by your good works that you're serving God. And in our world, there's very few that are standing up for what's right. All you have to do is watch the news. It's so crazy right now. You know, they passed that law in California where unless you take more than like $950, it's a misdemeanor. So these people are doing all the smash and grabs. None of them get prosecuted is the word, because they have to go above that before the police will arrest. Is that crazy? Crazy. Whatever happened to when people did stuff that was a minor crime, they still got arrested. Yeah. But now, some of the district attorneys are getting smart. They're saying, okay, we're going to run a total on you. So you do a smash and grab, it was 500, but then you did one last week, it was 300, and you did one next week, and they're going after him again. All they had to do is figure it out. It's still more than 950. So we're living in crazy times. You know, in that way, we probably are a lot better off up here as far as common street crime and things like. We still have it, but not like it does in the big city. So, you know, it's better. People feel much safer up here. On the other hand, you've got the weather to deal with and other things. But you notice what he's saying is people see by your good works how you are. And we may not think about it, but they do. You know, it might be a neighbor. It might be someone you work with. And they see what you're like. That they may, by your good works, which they observe, glorify God in the day of visitation. Therefore, submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether to the king as the supreme or to governors. Now, remember again, unless it's something biblically that causes you to go against God's word, we are still supposed to follow it as good citizens. You can't be going down the highway at 80 miles an hour and you get pulled over, you say, well, God told me it was okay. No. We've got a bunch of those. I still remember ones like that. And you know, all you have to do, after a while you learn, you just tell them, listen, sir, ma'am, you can explain this to the judge. And you tell the judge what God told you to do. And really, that's it. And then they're happy. They're like, okay, so I go, I'm not saying I agree with you, I'm just saying you have your day in court. They sign, and that's it. Now, if you sit there and argue with them, you're just making it worse for yourself. It's not going to work. Just, you're going to get your day in court. But if it's things like crossing across where there's a crosswalk, you know, we've had so many accidents in Tahoe. They're trying to put in more lights and more crosswalks. Like over here, they really need one. The problem here is it's Caltrans. Caltrans, I don't want to say they don't care, but it's not the city. So they're more, you know, they want the road to keep going. So eventually we'll get something over here where people cross. It's worse in the summer. But if you're a Christian, you should be a good example of doing what's right according to the laws of man, unless it interferes with your laws of God. If the city says you can't read the Bible, then I'm sorry, I can't obey. So that's what that means. But on normal things, like what you're supposed to do, you and I should be a good example of those people in the world that we're following what God tells us to do with everyday laws. And the law's under attack because lawlessness will increase in the end times, and we're told that that's one of the things we see right now that's really a problem. And, you know, we had defund the police. We've got high crime rates, so let's defund the cops. I mean, you know, if you think about it, you almost sit there and go, this is like the Three Stooges. We've got more crime, so let's defund the police. Now, even if you have some cops that are abusive and are bad cops, that doesn't outweigh the normal one. Just because there's a bad CHP officer, probably the one that's going to stop you is probably going to be normal. If you get the one that's abusive, there's things you can do about that. But most of them are going to be courteous and, you know, sir, you're doing this or doing that. And we should be good citizens. We should do what we can to help and to follow the laws of God and the laws of man. So we're in crazy times right now. Can you imagine being a Christian in living in Israel? It'd be bad enough, it would be hard enough. But if you're on the Gaza Strip and you're a Christian, there are some. I mean, Hamas hates them because they're Christians, and they see that Christians love Jews. And they have no support except for occasionally there are some churches there. But my point is, talk about being hard to have a good testimony. All your neighbors are mourning over their friends that were killed in the war, and you're there, and they know you're a Christian, so they're looking at you like, well, what do you say? So next time you pray, you might want to think about those believers that are really trapped in that area. And they would like to get out, but they can't really get out. Egypt doesn't want them. It's really a problem we don't hear about on the news. But we've done too good of a job of sharing the gospel. So there are Christians in those areas. In Iraq, in Iran, there are Christians there. So, be a good example. Therefore, submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether as to kings, as supreme, or to governors, as to those who are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. So they're seeing you and I, by following the laws, as looking as good persons, good people, because we're following what the law says, and people will see that, look, if you're a good neighbor, look, if you have a neighbor from hell, which some do, I don't know if anybody, you're so funny. But if you have a neighbor that's like that, and in comparison, you have neighbors that see that, like their trash can got left out and you put it in. They see that. It's not a major deal, but they're going to see that. Or they left their sprinkler on and you shut it off. And, things like that. People see how you are. On the other hand, if everything's about you, they'll notice that too. So what he's saying is they can see. So try to be a good example as a neighbor. And, I like in two things when the snow flies is we see more of our neighbors because we're out doing snow removal. In the summer, not so much, but in the winter you do. They're doing snow removal, you're doing yours. And I've got kids all around me. And if there's an issue, there was one time there was a huge boulder. The snowplow came down, ate everything up, but what was left was this boulder, like 100 pounds, easy. So my two neighbors across the street, they're young kids. I say young kids, they're really young compared to me, but they're young. And they come out, Jerry, can we help you get it? And I go, yeah, let's do it. And we'll all get together and we'll get it off the road. And on the same token, if they're at work and they can't do, when we get buried, I'll go over and try to do their driveway. People notice stuff like that. They do. Because most people don't do it. But as believers, we're seeing each other at our best and our worst. So that's what he's trying to talk about here is, look, try to be a good neighbor. Try to do what you can do to help. And we're living in winter, so this applies to us. Submit yourselves to every ordinance, verse 13, for the Lord's sake. And where you might be thinking, well, I'm a Christian, so I'm going to go do this because it's for the Lord's sake. To governors, as those who are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. As free, yet not using liberty as a cloak for vice, but as a bondservant of God. Honor all people, love the brotherhood, fear God. Now, this is a section, I've been in the ministry 35, 40 years, I don't even know. This is a section that we skip over a lot. Think about it for a second. We talk about doing good, doing what's right, but when it comes to, this is tough, when it's telling us what to do here. Okay? Honor all people. That means if I'm over at 7-Eleven and there's a Muslim with his Muslim headdress, and I'm thinking about cutting in front of him to get my Slurpee, But I go, wait a minute. He's going to probably know I came from across the street. So I'm going to give honor and respect due to that person. I don't care who they are. That's what we're supposed to do. And if you notice people are not respectful of each other, you'll see somebody at a restaurant going off on a waitress or a waiter. It's like, I can't stand it. And, you know, we're supposed to honor people. That means we treat them good. Honor all people. Again, okay, does all include Hindus, Buddhists, Nazis, Hamas? I think it does. So we would try and do that. When I go to Israel, I go out of my way to talk to every Palestinian. Because I want to know, like, you know, and sometimes you'll kind of get in, like, you don't want to offend them right away, but, you know, I notice are you coming across the border every day? And they'll talk, oh yeah, I have a great job here, better than where I'm from. And what do you think about Israel? And they'll go, well, you know, it's the best place we can work, but I don't like the politics. And then you have a chance to share, what do you think about Jesus? But I'm starting by being respectful. And we're getting in car show season again. We're going to have the Autorama down in Sac coming up soon. And let's say last year they had all the lowrider type cars. If you don't know what a lowrider is, see Fernando. And all the lowriders are in this one huge indoor museum type thing, but it's a car show. So, you know, they're all the ones that jump up and down, and they're all, you know, and 99.9% of the people in there are Hispanic. So they're playing music that I like. And I was walking around, and I go up to them and say, I love this group. I go, you guys have great musical taste. See, I'm starting right away by trying to honor them. I'm trying to honor them. I'm not saying, well, you know where I come from. We drive muscle cars. No, you want to honor them, and they'll talk to you. They'll talk to you. But what I'm saying is, you'll notice there are people like maybe they're a Corvette club, and if in the summer up here you see it. There'll be Corvette clubs, Austin Healey clubs, I mean Porsche club, and they tend to stick to themselves. But if I'm honoring them, I might go say that's a beautiful car, that's a beautiful paint job, and I'm honoring them, so that I can have further dialogue with them that in our flesh we don't. And if you grew up in a bigger city, you know people stick to their own kind, they just do. But if we want to reach people, we should honor everybody. So, I mean, in Israel, one of the things that's funny is, a couple times we've been there in the Ben Yehuda Street, which is a commercial area. It's a great neighborhood for shopping and hanging out and stuff like that. And a couple times the South Korean people were sharing the gospel with us. And in Israel, you can't proselytize. You can't try to convert people. Now, I don't know anybody that's ever gotten arrested or anything, but technically you can't. But here we are singing, and here comes these South Koreans. They made Kleenex packages with English translation, and they'll come up and share the gospel with you. And then one time they said, you're Christians, and why don't you come sing with us? We're going to be singing down at the town square, and you come sing. And we did. It was so great. I mean, listen, it's the same songs, but the words are obviously different. But here we are just singing them ours in English, and it sounded great together. And I'm thinking, there's a great opportunity to share with the Koreans. I mean, come on. I'm saying this because I've seen so much of the other side. You know, in the Bay Area, Adon's mom just died. We went to her funeral in San Francisco. And Asian people, right now, it's on the news all the time, feel like they're being oppressed by other races in the Bay Area. They feel like they are not, you know, people make fun of them, whatever. And I ask them, how do you guys feel? And they go, well, it depends what city we're in. There's cities we don't want to go to. So if I want to honor the Asian people, it doesn't matter. I just do. But, you know, one of these times you're going to hit one. I was in San Francisco once, and an Arab went by, obviously an Arab with Muslim headdress and all that, and the guy was a shopkeeper, and he says, that's what's going to destroy our world. And see, their hatred by the Jews of the Arabs, and vice versa. So here we are, trying to share with them and talk to them about God. So anyway, just remember, by doing so, you may silence the ignorance of foolish men. Verse 15. As free, yet not using liberty as a cloak for vice, but as bondservants of God. Honor all people. Love the brotherhood. Fear God. Honor the king. Servants, be submissive to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and the gentle, but also to the harsh. See, it puts it back on you. If they're harsh, you still be a good example to them. It's not about what they do to you. It's you responding to them. One of the things that I see really clearly is, if you notice, and if you have friends, family, loved ones that are in this, you understand it better. Law enforcement tends to stick together. And you can see why. They're the ones that are arresting bad guys. So they're not going to go hang out with the Hells Angels. Because that's like, in their mind, it's like a war zone. So one year, I'll give you another example, more crazy than that. The city in the summer has softball leagues, and I did it for years. I was an umpire for years. And sometimes you'll get, like, a snowboard shop will have a team, and South Tahoe PD has a team. You would think we're in Oakland with the Hells Angels. I mean, I'm doing this game, and I'm watching these guys that are snowboarders. They do not like the police. And then here's the police. He's out. And plus, he shoved me. And I'm going, nobody would do the games. That's why I'd get him. The other guys would go, I'm not doing those games. Because the snowboard shops are crazy, and the cops are crazy. So, and then one time, when we had a tournament, Beverly Hills PD, LAPD, all over the state, departments had teams here to play softball in Lake Tahoe. You know, beautiful Lake Tahoe. Guess what? Nobody wanted to umpire. You want me to umpire between LAPD and Butte County? Or whoever it is? Or here I've got Beverly Hills PD against Newport Beach? And all these people have a pretty healthy ego. So the umpires, but the only ones who could do it were guys that were ex-cops. We had fun. We had fun, because I make them laugh. I go, come on, just relax. But other people, I got to a game one time, and a guy that we all know is a manager of a motel here in town. It was the Coast Guard from like Alameda, I don't know, Coast Guard, and they were playing the FBI. And I get there to do the next game, and they're both are fighting with the umpire. The umpire's in the middle, and he won't yield. And it's like he made a call, they're all going nuts because he made the wrong call, and I finally had to say, look, we got another game. So you guys are going to have to move off. But they hated each other. So when you have that, I'm giving you crazy examples that aren't the same as like, well, yeah, they're Hells Angels. Well, look, there's always going to be somebody that's different than we are. And we're supposed to love them and be a good example of how we take care of them. So he says, honor all people, love the brotherhood, fear God. If you fear God, guess what? If you fear God, it's going to affect what you do. If you don't fear God, you'll do what you want. If you fear God, because you fear God, you're not going to go against God because you fear God. And so you follow trying to be a good Christian because you fear God. Look at people like David. Now, David sinned, but then David, for the most part, feared God. Saul, when he started, feared God. We have all these stories given to us where men and women started out on the right track, then went the other way. And Peter's trying to tell us here, fear God, follow the right direction, do what's right. And it doesn't matter what anybody else does, you do what's right. So it says, for this is the will of God, that by doing good, you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. As free, yet not using liberty as a cloak for vice, but as bondservants of God. Honor all people, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. Now, let's get serious. You want me to honor Gavin? Yes, I'd have to. If he came and did an inspection here in Tahoe, I can just see it now. I'm going to be asked to pray. And here's the governor. He's against everything I believe in. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go up to Sam, Mr. Governor, I'm so glad to meet you. Welcome to Lake Tahoe. That's what it means to honor the king. I'm not going to say to the guys, well, I'm not going to do it. He's not pro-life. I'm not doing it. That's not you. We have people that are so crazy like that. We're supposed to honor the king. So what if we had your favorite, Joe?
Slow Joe.
The Biden master. Yeah, he was here. He was here, and I saw him a couple of times because he had this bubble mobile. It was a convertible. It had a hard plastic top, and when you'd see that with a Suburban going through town, like in one case, he wanted to go work out in one of our gyms over here, and he's staying on the Nevada side, but he wanted this gym over here. So you'd see him coming through with this bubble top. Did you know they're bringing back the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile? There's 60 are going to be around the country, and so there's at least 2 drivers for each one. They start at $35,000, and everything covered, every hotel and all your food's covered, plus $35,000 to drive the Wienermobile. It would be fun. It would be fun for somebody being around kids and stuff. But anyway, I just thought I'd let you know, Brian, you're not too old. So. But to honor the king, if we were to meet someone like that, it's not the time, like when somebody has a death. We had a death last night at the hospital, an overdose. And it's not the time then to go into doctrine with people. You feel sorry for them, you pray for them, you're there to help them work through it. But you're not there to judge their lifestyle. That would come later. If they want to talk to you, they can talk to you. So if I were to meet Joe Biden or one of them, it would be hard. I could do it. I could do it and just try to be respectful, but because of this, I know I have to be. Because what he's trying to say is when it's hard, we got to do it. It's hard. You have people in your family you don't want to be around. I'm just guessing. I didn't read your mail except the Shibes. But I'm supposed to honor all men. So if I'm around somebody that I know is the opposite of me and this, that, and the other, I'm going to just try my best to honor them. Like the guy who's president of the Brotherhood or Hell's Angels. Or, I've just tried to, but I'll tell you what, by doing that, I've had them call me to counsel their kids. This is so-and-so from names of the group that they're in. And one of our kids needs help, and we want you to come talk to them. And I remember when I went there. This is when I was riding a scooter during the summer. I pulled my little Honda scooter, and it's got all over the street, Harleys only, da-da-da-da-da. And this guy came out, typical outlaw biker. And he came up to me, and I just friendly blopped up to him, and he came up to me before he could say anything. I go, is that a sweet ride or what? My scooter, and he started laughing. He couldn't help it, because he was going to tell me I couldn't park there, but he was laughing so hard he couldn't. And I said, well, I'm here to help. And they, oh, okay, thanks for coming. And they called me many more times. That's what I mean. It's not, you don't have to be right. You don't, just be courteous to all people. Love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. Servants, be submissive to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the harsh. For this is commendable, if because of conscience toward God one endures grief, suffering wrongfully. For what credit is it if, when you are beaten for your faults, you take it patiently? But when you do good and suffer, if you take it patiently, this is commendable before God. For this, you who were called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps, who committed no sin, nor was any deceit found in his mouth, who when he was reviled did not revile in return, when he suffered he did not threaten, but committed himself to him who judges righteously, who himself bore our sins in his own body on the tree, that we have died to sins, might live for righteousness, by whose stripes you were healed. For you were like sheep going astray, but now return to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. There you go. Now next week we get into wives and husbands, but this is just simply saying, you could title this whole thing as, when it's hard, still do what's right. It's going to be hard. You have people you don't like to work with. They're this, they're that. But you try to do the best to be an example if you could. And, maybe, who knows what we would be asked to be a part of. But we want to think that we would be You know what makes you feel good is when you're so overtly friendly to those that are against God, and they notice it. They think, you're even nice to us. They don't say it. They won't say it. They'll say it to somebody else. I thought he was pro-life. And that's a huge battle in the medical field. Most people in the medical field are pro-choice. So if they perceive that you're pro-life, it's going to create a problem. But didn't Jesus say, love your enemies and pray for those who use you? So, okay. You find yourself sitting next to somebody that you know is the head of the local Planned Parenthood office, and you can't stand what they do. But you want to have an opportunity to talk to them later, so you honor them. You try to be nice to them in the midst of. So if you look at this really carefully and you go through this, all of us are in situations or positions where we feel we're a minority, or people are against us, or and we have to dig deep to be the Christian God wants us to be in that condition. That's what you have to look at it. Not everybody you're around is like you. Not everybody around is thinking like you. And sometimes we have to say, God, help me to be an example to those people. You know, in Fernando, was it your uncle that died? Is that the one that in Rose Hills? Was that your uncle?
My dad?
Mm-hmm. I thought it was before that. It might have been your dad. But anyway, have you ever been to Rose Hills or Forest Lawn? I mean, these places are huge. They're like a follow the red line to the green line to the blue line to the orange line. I mean, it's that bad. So I'm there, and you know, I have a sense of humor. You know, Nando, even though Nando looks somewhat white or Argentinian, he's not. He's Mexican, right? I mean, you can see that. So we're down there for this funeral. He's the only one I know. And I think it was uncle comes up to me, and they're all in lowriders. I mean, half the cars are like that. And he comes up to me and goes, dude, you're in the wrong place. Remember that? Was that your uncle?
Michael Raymond.
Yeah. He goes, you're in the wrong place. And I couldn't help but laugh, but I could see what he meant. I was the only white guy there. But with some laughs and kind comments, we got along. You see what I'm saying? It depends how you react. You've got to respect that it's going to be different. I think of this because I like music, and when I was a street cop, you get loud music calls all the time. And I mean where there's a band in the garage, not because their radio's cranked. No, there's a band practicing in the garage. So I'm in an all-black neighborhood. And I roll up a one-man white car, and I go knock on the door, and these guys are good. I said, you know what? You guys are good. I said, you're really good. I said, there's only one problem, is some of your neighbors aren't exactly fans. But if you can just crank it down a little bit, then I won't have to come back, and we'll all be happy. 9 times out of 10, I never went back. But see, I got a relationship from the start. I didn't start in on your kind of people or this or no. You treat people with respect. We just have to do that. We have to do it. And watch, I'm saying this, something's going to happen. There'll be a Muslim convention across the street, and they're going to want to come use the bathroom. And I'll just call for Sherry. I lost the key. No. I'm giving these crazy illustrations because God has a sense of humor. But look at the people Jesus was around. The vast majority were judging him. And yet he tried to show love and compassion. So, you know, we might have an opportunity to lead somebody to Christ. And, you know, we've got this kid now. I call him a kid. He's from India. He comes on Sunday night, and he works across the street. He's the most friendly guy we've ever had. I mean, ask Sherry. We go over there, and you know, I want a vitamin Slurpee or whatever it is, and a hot dog, and he gets it. Very polite. Now we've had other people there that were just mean. I mean, at first I thought one of them was related to Sherry. I go, why are they treating us like that? You know the ones, the Sikhs that have their head like the thing on the top? They were just not friendly. And these guys are unbelievable. And I go, it's great seeing you guys here, you know, thank you. And, you know, so again, how are we treating them? when I pulled up, somebody was parked and was going to go to Sonny's. And I heard Brian, I didn't know who it was, but I heard Brian say, you know, you can't park here because we have church tonight. And they were nice, and it went well. The way we approached them is huge. I remember a couple times Ted Ripley wanted to get into a fight with somebody, and he'd be over there saying, where's the manager? I went over there one time, and this is after everything else, and I went, and Sonny was there. And Bob's calling me, like, where's Sonny? And finally I go, he's right there. And I go, look, we're not going to solve this by fighting with each other, but we're going to have to try to work this out, which it's pretty good now. But just think about when people initially contact you. You know, you can tell a difference. So we want to reach out to those people and honor all men. We need to really work on that. We need to show. It'd be nice if those other people would say, you know, those Christians are very polite. That would be good. Not, oh, those Christians are mean. They're not friendly. They hate us, and they judge us. Oh, wait a minute. So you and I have to try our best to be what Christ would be. And let's face it, it's not easy. If it was always easy, if everybody you came across was nice, then it wouldn't be hard. But it's too bad that's not true. So, praise God. Honor all men. I'm praying that God's going to show me something with that soon, the next couple days. I'll meet somebody, maybe at the hospital. I was there last night. There was a patient screaming in the room. And all I could think about was, when I worked for Linwood PD, we had the biggest hospital, private hospital, west of the Mississippi, St. Francis and Linwood. It's a huge hospital. Even now it's big. And so we got called. If somebody was doing that back then, guess what? You know what happened back then? They're going to jail. The way it is now is nobody wants to really arrest anybody because it's just where our culture is. And I'm sitting there. One time in the JTC, this kid was bashing his head against the cell door, his own door. I mean, to where I was concerned. And I go, you guys got to do something. This guy's bashing his head against the door. He's going to hurt himself. And they go, we've already tried. There's nothing we can do. And I go, well, maybe you should call mental health. No, they won't come. But see, do you see what I'm saying? Is in our culture now is a little bit different than Reed and Malloy. 1 Adam 12. See the woman at the JTC. I could just see it now. But you and I, we have to be honoring to people. So anyway, I hate to give you the bad news, but it's coming on me too, because I'm going to be out there with them. But I just pray God will give me grace to deal with it. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time tonight. Thank you for your word. Help us, Lord, to honor all men, to respect all men, and Lord, still stand on our beliefs, but be a testimony to others. Just help us, Lord. Help us to love those that need help, and we know it might be us next time. So we pray for your strength and your guidance, Lord. Help each one of us. Go with us. Be with Margie, Lord, as she's grieving over Merle and her family and his family. And we just lift up that service to you, that you'd even now begin to knit together the type of service you want for that. So, Lord, be with us. Keep us safe on the streets. And we thank you for what you're doing, Lord.